On. Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Even better now that the microphone is on. Eureka. Simple button. It's a little complicated for me sometimes. But it is a beautiful Wednesday, my friends. We've got a bunch of stuff cooking out there today. And we're waiting right now for Pam Bondi to come out here and deliver a press briefing, which we are excited about. You can see 5 p.m. Eastern time any minute. We're waiting for that to pop up here. And the AP has the video footage for us. So as soon as that puppy drops, we're going to be here talking about that. But there is other stuff happening out there. We've got a bunch of lawsuits that we'll be covering today. We're going to talk about Rhode Island. We're going to talk about another temporary restraining order. So remember, Rhode Island was a battle that we've been spending some time on and went up to the Court of Appeals and then came back down to the Court of Appeals. And in my humble opinion here, I think this judge is backtracking. So we're going to go through his orders because he gave us several different orders and 3 of them. And this is the third one. And the third one is basically saying, you guys are idiots for not understanding my first 2 orders. And the third order goes back to the first order, which isn't even that bad against Trump, right? The second order was much worse. So we're going to go through all 3 of those and show you why these judges are backtracking and how they're backtracking, because they know that they have way overstepped their boundaries, and that's obviously ridiculous. Then we'll talk about this new temporary restraining order that they had oral arguments about today, and our friend Margot Cleveland over on X, if you haven't followed her yet, I'd encourage you to do that. Just reposted this tweet from her. This X, sorry, Elon, don't ban me. But she was there inside reporting on what happened in the courtroom, and we'll share with you what that looks like, because this was another suit in the District of Columbia, and they were suing to get their money. They want their money. And what's so funny about this is they submitted a second motion, right? They filed a complaint to sue to stop Trump from cutting their funds off. And then today they filed this one. They said, look, they're still terminating us. There are new termination notices happening right now, including yesterday. So they're like, Trump is just axing everything. And because he's got a lot of inherent power to do that. And we'll parse through all that and see what it means. Then we'll talk about the Trump and the DOJ appealing this puppy. Of course, this is the attempt by Hampton Dellinger to reinstitute himself. President Trump fired him and he says, no, you can't fire me. And he sued to get back in charge. And then Judge Amy Berman Jackson put him back in, said, you have to give him access to his emails and all of the other materials that Trump nuked him out of, and said, you have to give all of those back. So this is Trump's DOJ, an acting attorney general, now submitting a filing to refute that. And we're learning more about this guy. I want to hat tip Julie Kelly for flagging us on this one, but found this old article from 2023 explaining that Hampton Dellinger worked with Hunter Biden at his law firm. So it's like, oh, I get it now. That's why they gave him access to his email again, so he could go clean some crap up, didn't it? So we'll talk about that. And then Pam Bondi gave a statement about some of this stuff earlier today, and so we'll come back and check in on that. Then we had Todd Blanche was in the House today in front of the Senate. Ashley Moody was there, and he was going through confirmation hearings. You remember Todd Blanche, a good friend of the show because we covered a lot of his work over the last several years. So he, of course, is going to be Deputy Attorney General under Pam Bondi, and we will see what some of these clips look like from when he was there in front of the Senate today. Even Chuck Grassley was asking him some questions. So we got all of that queued up and more. Mike Lee coming up and plenty of stuff. Now, we also saw that today, this morning on our Membo stream, we talked about this too. Said Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard is now your new Director of National Intelligence. Yeah. Well done, America. We got it. So Office of the DNI came out and said Tulsi took the oath of office today to serve as the 8th Director of National Intelligence and the first female combat veteran to lead the intelligence community. The White House posted about this. Here is just a short excerpt of her swearing in, our newest DNI. Amazing. Hang on. Let me get this situated.
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely.
I take this obligation freely.
All right, so I guess the White House didn't finish the full thing. They just gave us 30 seconds, but all right, that's good enough. All right, 30 seconds. Tulsi Gabbard, the new DNI coming in soon. So we're looking forward to that. Now, Pam Bondi set to come out any minute. And so we'll keep our eye on that one, of course. But before we get into some Pam Bondi press briefing, you know what we got to talk about? That silent tax on Americans. You know what it is. Inflation. Some say it might be the biggest threat to savings account in 2025. We've got out of control prices, historic dollar devaluations, and the Democrats are suing to continue the fraud and the abuse. But even Elon said, the government either taxes you directly or they do it by increasing the money supply and they tax you through inflation. And that's why people are strongly considering physical gold and silver to protect their retirement accounts like their IRAs and 401ks. And Preserve Gold, as you see on your screen, is giving away a no cost, no obligation, free wealth protection guide that contains 25 plus pages of detailed information and insights. And you can learn how you can put physical gold and silver into an IRA or 401k and even purchase precious metals and have them delivered directly to your home. Very simple. All you need to do, text the word Robert to 50505. Preserve Gold has hundreds of five-star reviews, millions of dollars in trusted transactions, many satisfied clients, and as an exclusive offer, in addition to their free guide that you can also get up to $15,000 in free gold and silver if you have a qualified purchase. And so it's easy. Just text Robert to 50505 to receive this exclusive offer. That's Robert to 50505 and check out our friends at Preserve Gold today. And we appreciate Preserve Gold sponsoring today's episode. Now, let's get into the business on the day. We're still waiting for Pam Bondi. That's not what we want over here. Pam Bondi. We're still waiting for Pam Bondi to come over and get into the business on the day. And she has not emerged quite yet. But that gives us plenty of time to see what's happening in this judge's case. So here it is. DC judges are backtracking. We're going to look at 3 orders that came out from this judge. You've seen his name a lot out there, Judge John J. McConnell Jr. A lot of people peering into his background saying, how did he become a judge? Is that because he made many donations to the Democrats and more? Probably. But he has now lost it. So you can see in this very short 2-page order, he is even writing in italics. Okay, so this means this judge is like having a meltdown. Writing in italics because he wants to emphasize his original opinion. And he is also making some typos saying this court reaffirms right here with just one F there, Judge. That's not proper. Pam Bondi's coming out. What's up, Pam? All right, get a little closer. Back for the camera. Scoot over. All right, perfect. Looking good. Can they increase the resolution here for us, or are we going to have potato quality this whole time? All right, my friends, we're waiting for Pam Bondi to come on out here, and then we'll get back to the pleadings and the filings. But hopefully she's got some updates for us and a plan to combat these lefty judges in D.C. who are continually trying to take control of the executive branch via judicial fiat. And while we're here, let's say what's up to our friends in the chat. Hey, what's up? Voice of the People says, searches for criminal defense lawyers have skyrocketed in D.C. They're 3 times higher than anywhere else in America. We're all about to be working overtime on this soon. Yeah, so Voice of the People, off-label podcast. I did see that. Somebody was checking the Google Trends. And a lot of very scared bureaucrats are like, what's the definition of embezzlement? What does that mean? What does that mean? How does that contrast with larceny? What are these different phrases? They're all learning about these theft crimes. Going to be fun. Thank you, voice. Hey, what's up? Jerry Swoboda became a new membo. Good to see you, Jerry. Thanks for joining us on the YouTubes. We'll see you on the members only streams. And we had an amazing members only stream this morning. And we're going to have another one tomorrow morning. So we'll see you there. Hey, what's up? Ed 2276 says, what would happen to the judges in the D.C. Circuit if Congress abolished the D.C. Circuit? They would, well, I don't know. I don't know what the plan would be. Like, so if Congress issued some legislation, right, there would probably be a dissolution plan. Congress could pass legislation to expand or dissolve the courts. They have that power. So there would probably be a dissolution plan. Maybe Pam's coming in the house. What's up, Pam Bondi?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Pam.
I'm sorry we were a little bit late. I was in the West Wing swearing in Tulsi Gabbard.
No problem.
And so I just came straight back here. So thanks for being patient with us with the delay. We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ.
What?
And we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment.
Whoa.
New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today. As you know, we sued Illinois, and New York didn't listen. So now you're next.
Yeah!
Millions of illegal aliens with violent records have flooded into our communities, bringing violence and deadly drugs with them. With me today, I'm so proud to be joined by Tammy Nobles. Tammy is an angel mom. Her beautiful daughter, Kayla Hamilton, was murdered by an MS-13 member in 2022. Kayla had just turned 20 years old, and she was raped and murdered by someone who should not have been in our country. Yet, he was released, flown to Maryland, where he committed this violent murder.
Wow.
I just want you to hear from, Tammy. Tammy represents not only herself and her family, but all of the great angel moms around this country who have suffered because of what the Biden administration did, and it is over.
Thank you for having me here today and being able to share Kayla's story. Her murderer was able to come across the border knowing that he was flagged as an MS-13 gang member, and he had a criminal record in 2020 in El Salvador for illicit gang activity. He came over as an unoccupied alien child, saying that he was afraid of gang activity in his country. Health and Human Services called him a nice boy, and he showed age-appropriate behavior. That fell so wrong when he murdered my daughter. He ended up in Maryland, where he was able to rent a room in the same mobile home as her. We thought it was a legit company that were renting out these rooms, but it turned out that it was another illegal immigrant who owned these mobile homes. And he knew Walter from El Salvador. He knew him and allowed him to rent a room with my child. Kayla just turned 20 years old 3 days before she was murdered. Her murderer was only living there for 5 days before he viciously strangled her, raped her, and left her on the floor like trash and robbed her of $6. I have been sharing her story for over 2.5 years to bring change, because this should have not have ever happened to Kayla, and it shouldn't be happening to other families being hurt by the border. Homeland Security did not do their jobs. They did not check his background. You know, they did say that he was processed. So if they processed him, they knew that he was a gang member. and still allowed him here. Health and Human Services did not verify the sponsor and allowed him to go with a sponsor that they don't even know if it was his cousin or his aunt. And he was able to leave the sponsor's house to go live wherever he wanted. And I am going to continue sharing Kayla's story to help save others and to bring awareness of what was happening under the Biden-Harris administration. And I'm so thankful for Pam having me here today. And I'm so thankful for the opportunities I got from Trump and any other platform, people who allowed me to share her story, because this is going to end. No other parent should suffer by having their child murdered by somebody that shouldn't be here. And I'm going to continue, sharing it, and for Kayla, and also for others. Thank you.
Peace to her and her family.
And it's my understanding that he also admitted to other murders, correct? Multiple murders.
Yes, he wrote a letter, and it was intercepted in jail, that he committed 4 murders and 2 rapes.
And that's who we were letting walk into our country. And that's why President Trump has directed this to stop. And if you don't comply with federal law, we will hold you accountable. We did it to Illinois. Strike 1. Strike 2 is New York. And if you are a state not complying with federal law, you're next. Get ready. And the great men and women of law enforcement are standing behind me today. We have FBI, DEA, ATF agents. They put their lives on the line every single day to protect us. And what New York has, they have green light laws, meaning they're giving a green light to any illegal alien in New York, where law enforcement officers cannot check their identity if they pull them over. Law enforcement officers do not have access to their background. And if these great men and women pull over someone and don't have access to their background, they have no idea who they're dealing with. And it puts their lives on the line every single day. Violent criminals, gang members, drug traffickers, human smugglers will no longer terrorize the American people. And that is why we are here today. You will be held accountable if you do not follow federal law. It's over, it ends, and we're coming after you. Questions?
Damn.
Time for a few questions. David Spont with Fox News.
Madam Attorney General, thank you and welcome to the Justice Department.
Thank you.
I have a quick on-topic and a quick off-topic
Sure.
question. On-topic, in your executive order or in your orders on the first day you were here, you talked about working with the Justice Department, or these sanctuary cities, as you say, will be
Yes.
punished. Today you're putting people on notice. Right now, we're just lawsuits. Is this going to go further? What kind of punishment are we talking about? Is there any grounds
She
to
just said charges.
charge individuals, charge politicians? How far is this going to go?
Well, we're going to see what they do next, David. We have sued them all. We've personally sued the governor, the Attorney General, Letitia James, and Mark Schroeder with DMV, because he has the green light laws. So what they have to do, they have to start complying with federal law. If they don't, we're going to appeal it, and we will win. They have to comply with federal law. Did you have a second question?
I did have a second off-topic question in this regard to the judiciary. Today, Elon Musk, who has enormous influence in the Trump administration, posted on X, quote, "There needs to be an immediate wave of judicial impeachments, not just one." As the Attorney General of the United States, how do you respond to that? Shouldn't the process work out in the courts before we talk about judicial impeachments? I mean, these are just TROs now at this time. Shouldn't these just play out?
Yeah, I haven't seen Elon Musk tweet. He is a friend of mine. He is a great man. I think he's very frustrated with what's happening in our federal government. You know, at USAID alone, they're giving out billions of dollars that should not be distributed. We're going to back him up. You know, we work our whole lives in this country, and we all pay taxes in this country. And for people to find out that $2 million is going to Guatemala for sex changes is outrageous. And we're going to back up Elon Musk every way we can. That includes lawsuits against these people who are doing that, and we will be successful.
Do you have concerns about judicial judicial impeachments?
That's not going to happen now. We're going to look at everything. We're going to follow the law right now. We're going to follow the process. These are federal judges with lifetime appointments, but they will be struck down ultimately by the Supreme Court of the United States if the appellate courts don't follow the law as well.
Yep. That's right.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so
Nice
much. I also have an on-topic and an off-topic.
Sure.
First of all, can you just briefly walk us through what the legal claims are you're making in this lawsuit?
All right, yeah, what
Yeah.
are the charges?
Absolutely. So the green light laws are that this is what the green light law says. It's a green light to illegal immigration, which says they can comply. That law is unconstitutional. They can't do that. And what they've done is they have a tip-off provision that requires New York's DMV commissioner to promptly inform any illegal alien when a federal immigration agency has requested their information. So think about the men and women in law enforcement behind me. That's basically, that's not basic. It's tipping off an illegal alien, and it's unconstitutional. And that's why we filed this lawsuit. And that's why we charge Mark Schroeder, too, because he runs DMV.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, you had a second question.
It's a civil
my
claim.
off-topic question. I wanted to ask about
Not criminal.
Mayor Eric
Yes.
Adams' case. As of at least a few moments ago, SDNY still has not dropped that case. Have you or other DOJ leadership spoken to the acting U.S. attorney in SDNY since the memo was sent earlier this week? And what will you do if she refuses to drop the case?
I have not spoken to her. I know our acting DAG, Emil Bove, has spoken to her, and Chad Mizell may have
Emil?
spoken to her.
Is that how he says
but
it?
that case should be dropped. It was done at the directive of Emil, so that case should be dropped. I did not know that it had not been dropped yet, but I will certainly look into that.
Reagan, Daily Caller.
Hi, thank you.
How are you?
Tom Homan suggested this week that someone from within the FBI may be leaking information about the ICE raids and that such could be putting officers' lives at risk. Has the DOJ gotten any closer to determining if these leaks are coming from within the FBI? And what will the consequences be if they can identify the leakers from the FBI?
Excuse me. Well, first, I can't talk about anything that is ongoing, and that is ongoing. And it's really for the similar reasons of what I said earlier. The great men and women in law enforcement standing behind me today, they must be protected. And anytime anyone leaks or tips off anything regarding a pending investigation, that jeopardizes lives. You're telling a bad guy what's about to happen. It could jeopardize the lives of all the men and women in law enforcement. We will not stand for it. We will find you. We're going to investigate it, no matter what agency it came from. We don't know for certain. We have an open investigation, so I can't talk about it in detail, but we will do everything in our power to hold you accountable, and it is a crime. And you will be prosecuted when we find you.
Good.
I got time for one more. Alana Austin, Newsmax.
Hi, Madam Attorney General. Thank you so much for your time. I was also interested in hearing specifically what the interactions have been like with Mayor Adams. And I know he has a little bit of a different tone than some of the other Democrats out of the Empire State. And then also Denver Mayor Mike Johnston, because before the President Trump went back into office, he had issued some words about a potential standoff and then walked that back. So I was curious to see what things have been like out of New York City and Denver officials.
Yeah, well, we're hoping that in New York, Mayor Adams is going to cooperate with us with the sanctuary cities and the illegal aliens. And has the mayor in Colorado been cooperating? Do we know? I believe he might have now. Yeah, I believe Colorado is now cooperating. That's what we want. We don't want to sue you. We don't want to prosecute people. We want people to comply with the law. This is very simple. An MS-13 member murdered her daughter. That's happening throughout this country. We have one angel mom is too many. And we have angel moms throughout this country who should not be going through this. Comply with the law. This is the last thing we want to be doing. We want to be out there, all of us, fighting violent crime. Yet we're fighting illegal aliens, and that ends, and it's going to end today.
That's all we have time for, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam Bondi. Thank you, Tammy Nobles, and prayers for her and her family. And rest in peace to her daughter. What a horrific thing to go through. Tremendous courage to come out here and share that story with all of America behind the DOJ podium. A lot of people will, of course, be trying to castigate her for that. It was just a random act of violence. Whatever. Okay, we all know what it was. Now, we got a little bit maybe overexcited there at the beginning because when we hear charges are brought against somebody, we instantly think criminal charges, but that's not what that sounded like in the aftermath. And she also said, I was looking at what the actual words out of her mouth were, and I think she also said that we're filing charges against the state of New York in addition to everybody else. So sounds like it's a civil complaint, which will be much like the one that we read that they brought against Illinois, right? So still going to be bringing the ruckus to Tisch and Hochul and Bragg. I think was Bragg on that list. I don't know who else on that list, but they're there. And so that's tremendous news from Pam Bondi, not playing around and going after these sanctuary states. So we'll keep our eye on that. And I actually was trying to get to see if there was a lawsuit or a complaint that was filed here from the Justice Department website already, and there's nothing yet. So I'm sure that will come later on. They'll make a post about that, and then we can read through what it looks like, very likely tomorrow. But wild update. I was not expecting that one. I thought she was going to come out and say something about these corrupt judges, but let's go back to these corrupt judges because she also did address some of that. So now, as I was mentioning, what we saw, Judge McConnell is so mad that he is highlighting in italics various components of his complaint, just to emphasize that the Trump administration is dumb. Okay. You guys are so dumb. You just can't read what I wrote. But what the problem with this is that his orders continue to change. So he is just backtracking against his secondary order. This is now the third order. And he's so stinking mad. He's even misspelling reaffirms, right? Doesn't want to put two F's in there like it should have. Just fuming mad. Wah! So here is the progression of this. And remember, this was so-called Judge John James McConnell, and the original filing happened some time ago. But what we covered earlier this week was an appeal up to the First Circuit, and the First Circuit sent this back down. And they said, well, surely, Judge McConnell, you wouldn't have entered an injunction against the president himself, would you? Surely you wouldn't do that. Remember yesterday we were saying wink, wink, and the judge got the message. So let me walk you through the judge's original order just to show you how badly this judge is backtracking, right? Just to make sure there's a clear chain on this so he can't use his italics and pretend like everybody else is dumb. This judge is dumb, and he reversed himself in a matter of days. He posted this one back on January 31st. We remember this. All the states like Tisch and the rest of them sued Trump and everybody else. And they said, what do you think you are, the president? And they said, we need you to stop everything that Trump is doing because we're going to win. They said Trump issued an OMB memo, and we say that he violates the APA. And the OMB memo is with unilateral authority indefinitely pausing all federal financial assistance, right? The states are like, give me my money. Tisch James, 1-800-BIG-TISH. It's my money and I want it now. In count 2, the states allege that they violated the APA. In count 3, they say that the failure to spend funds that Congress appropriates is a violation of separation of powers, right? This was the judge, and says in count 4, a violation of the spending clause, count 5, blah, blah, blah. And in very short order says, opinion, 13 pages. Because of the breadth and the ambiguity of Trump's pause, the court must consider the effect it will have. Are there some pauses that might be legal and appropriate? The court imagines there are, but we're also sure that there's some parts of this that are not. He's just, imagining and enjoying himself going through this. So we must consider the worst case scenario. And the court finds that the suspension of the funds simply because they choose to is not appropriate, right? So we fast forward. Here is what the judge's order ultimately was. He says there's going to be irreparable harm. The states are very upset, saying they're losing their money, blah, blah, blah. So now when we get to what the judge imposed, he explains that here is the conclusion. I am granting the TRO, right? This was his original conclusion. All that being said, Trump shall not pause, freeze, impede, block, cancel, or terminate Trump's compliance with awards and obligations to provide assistance to the states, and Trump shall not impede the access to the awards, and this is a key phrase, except on the basis of applicable authorizing statutes, regulations, and terms, okay? So basically, this is saying that Trump can't use the memo to cancel things if he has another independent basis and authority to justify the cancellation or whatever he's doing. So you can think about this like as an independent justification principle. And this happens all the time when you get pulled over, okay? Good cops will do this too. They'll have multiple justifications for what they do. It's very smart legally. So an example on this, good DUI cops, when they pull you over for a DUI, they don't pull you over and write in the report, they pulled you over for one reason, like, oh, you were only following too close or something. Because a good defense attorney will get the body cam if they're wearing one, or the dash cam if they have one, or whatever, and show that your client was not following too close at all. And if the client was not following too close, then there is no justification for the traffic stop, and you can argue the DUI should be dismissed because the cop just made something up. Following too close, the evidence doesn't support that. So of course the cops always find two reasons. You were following too close, and you were swerving within your lane, and you were speeding, okay, for example. So then a defense attorney has to beat all of those three things in order to get the traffic stop thrown out to beat the DUI. So it's an independent justification. Trump has that same concept. He has multiple powers and multiple avenues by which he can impose these changes. The judge just said, as long as you don't bring a suspension under the OMB, you can do it. Just follow the statutes, the regulations, and the terms, right? So if Trump engages in identification of financial assistance programs, such exercise, right, if you say these should be paused, except you cannot cancel anything unless you have authorizing statutes and regulations, right? So the executive order is limited. You're also restrained from renaming it into something else, and you shall provide notice that you've done these things, okay? So that was the order. That was order number one. Then the judge came back out and issued order number two, and he tightened it up big time. He said, what? Because the states were like, we don't have our money. We're not getting any of our money. Where is everything? Tish was crying about it all night. And then the judge came back out and said, you have to comply with my orders. What are you doing? They said, Trump issued a broad freeze. The plain language that I just wrote, he says, issued a prohibition on a categorical pause for everything, all categorical pauses or freezes based on the directive. They got a notice of this. My order was clear. Now, the states have presented evidence that in some cases, they were using their independent basis, okay? Just like the cop has multiple reasons to pull you over, Trump's administration said, oh, okay, we won't suspend that based on the OMB order. We'll suspend that based on this law or this power or whatever. So the states came back out and said, what? They're improperly freezing these funds. And Your Honor, we want our money. We want it now. Trump says, Your Honor, we're just trying to get rid of fraud. But they say, but the freezes that are in effect now were the result of the OMB, right? The judge says, well, your independent basis for this is not good enough because I still think you're doing it under the OMB. Saying the broad categorical sweeping freeze of the funds, judge says, is likely unconstitutional. It could be a problem. So in response to this, they asked for the TRO and the judge granted it. So, right, this is the second order. The judge is going to undo all of this like in a minute. But here's what he said. Therefore, consistent with this, Trump is further ordered, right? This is when the judge is like taking out two TVs now. He already ran out of the store with a grocery cart filled with everything and multiple TVs and stuff he didn't pay for. Now he wants to take another cart. Trump must immediately restore frozen funding during the pendency of the TRO until the court hears and decides the injunction. Okay, that's like everything. So everybody's getting paid. We read this. We're like, wow, floodgates are wide open. Trump must immediately end any federal funding pause during the pendency of the TRO, right? Any. And we came up with the term yesterday with your help. Thank you for this. Tactical compliance. Okay, Trump was tactically complying with everything that was happening here. says, oh, you must immediately end all of this, right? And says defendants must immediately take every step to effectuate the TRO, clear any administrative operational hurdles, so give them their money back. And you must comply with the plain text of this order not to pause any funds that are incorporated into the directive. It also includes any pauses or funds from the unleashing guidance that they gave. Now, Trump must immediately restore the withheld funds, including any IRA funds and Jobs Act funds. And they also included OMB number 11, right? We're all sitting here going, they didn't even complain about this. The defendants, Trump, must resume the funding of institutes and other agencies like the NIH that are also included in the scope of the TRO. So this is the second order that the judge signed immediately thereafter. You can see February 10th. So then Trump strategically complied with everything, right? And we saw that yesterday. Okay, everything's paused. Okay, everything's paused. We can't do, everything's unpaused. And then other cases are like, we can't give access to this person. I'm like, well, we can't give access to the Treasury. Like, there's so much stuff happening. So they're just ruthlessly complying with everything. So then the judge came back out today, right? And he's just furious. On the 12th, he says, and look, you can tell how mad he is. Look, first, right? See how that? When you start an email with this, you start a text message with this, you're not happy, right? And he's going to walk his second order back because his second order was unconstitutional, just like his first. He says, first, to be clear, and remember, this just came back down from the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals was winking at him hard, like, you didn't mean that you're going to prohibit the president from making decisions on these things, right? Or that he can do his job, stuff like that. Says yes. First, to be clear, the temporary restraining order permits Trump to limit access to federal funds, right? Because Trump came back out and he said, he gave this Oval Office address yesterday and said, I guess we can't freeze any fraudulent funds. I guess the judge just ordered us to hand out $50 million to illegals. We can't stop the fraud at all. I don't know why a judge would do that. So the judge came back out and said, first, I already said that you can limit access to federal funds on the basis of remember this phrase again, on applicable authorizing statutes, regs, and terms. Okay, that was from his first order back on July 31st, right? That's when he put that in there. In his second order, as he's screaming about now, he deleted that. He said, any federal funding pause is ended. You ended it. Not subject to laws or restrictions or any of those things, right? That was his second order. And his second order was mad because Trump was complying with the first order, which was identifying independent justifications to cancel or rescind the funds. So I was complying. Then the second one, I'm not complying. Or I'm sorry, Trump has always been complying, but they say you were not complying because you were using independent sources to rescind the funds. Then Trump said, okay, I guess I won't do that. So then $59 million goes out to illegal aliens in New York. And Kristi Noem got that money back. But then Trump came out and said, I don't know why a judge wants us to commit fraud, right? So again, complying with it. So then the judge says, I already said you can stop the fraudulent funds from not going out. He says, I already said this. My February 10th order, this is the judge walking it back, does not bar both the president, because Trump said, I guess we're barred under February 10th. We have to give out everybody all their money, even the fraudulent money. He said, no, that's not what I said. That order does not bar both the president and the government from exercising their own lawful authority to withhold funding without prior approval of the court. That's not what you said, Judge. You said you must restore the withheld funds, okay, everybody, including those, and NIH and the rest of them, and end all pauses and take all steps to effectuate the TRO. And Trump did that. So then he says, well, I didn't mean to give out the fraudulent money. Well, you said to give out the money, Judge. They said neither the TRO nor the court's order require Trump to seek pre-clearance from the court before acting to terminate the funds when it's based on actual authority in the applicable law, which of course is what Trump's already relying on. So the judge is backtracking hard, right? He's saying, let me shove this back in there. So I guess you can stop the funds from going out. Then he says, right, and this is like a big whiny paragraph. First, okay, got it, Judge. Now, second, the court will act with alacrity in issuing an order on the motion to stay, which is like eagerness. He's like, I can't wait to rule on that. We're sure you can't. We're sure you can't. Third, the defendants have filed 2 additional motions relating to the TRO. An emergency motion for another ruling and another supplemental motion. Now, as to FEMA and the funds to New York City, right, this judge is pissed about this because Trump came out and blasted him in the Oval Office. It was like, why is he giving $60 million to illegals? Why is he doing that? Judge is like, I didn't do that. Like, yeah, you did, Judge. The defendants represent that they intend to provide notice to New York City about the funding pause and will provide the information about the award. Now, because the defendants are seeking to terminate funding, he says, right, and again, he's doing italics here because he's like, I'm pointing this out. You guys are so dumb. I already said that if you had authorizing laws, you could withhold the funds. And the court sees no need for further clarification. This guy has a bad attitude. Well, you're clarifying it right now. Don't you realize that? This is your third order clarifying these things. Your first order was crap. You caved on the second order, which was illegal, both of them. And now you're going back to the first order. So you are clarifying, even though you're saying you're not. It's pathetic. It's cope. It's like you just admit you're doing. We all know what you're doing. We're reading it right now. Finally, nothing in the TRO prevents Trump from continuing to use routine processes for their PMS system that they've used for decades. Before Trump imposed this freeze that was the subject of the TRO, right? So he's so mad, he misspells, reaffirms. The court reaffirms the TRO, denies Trump's motion for a ruling, and denies as moot a supplemental ruling. So, right, it's like denial, 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 but Trump basically wins this one again. The judge is going back and saying, okay, actually, if you have other independent justifications for what you're doing, you can do it. I'm just limiting you on the OMB stuff. And the OMB memo, which was rescinded anyways, is just one source for Trump doing all of the things that he's doing. So, my friends, I'm sharing this with you because if you read between the lines here, this judge is recognizing he stepped in it. Okay, he crossed the line. He went way overboard. The Court of Appeals came back down. They gave him the old friendly nudge there because they're in the same disgusting circuit. And he is walking it back bigly. And there will be a bunch of them saying this is not a walk back or that this is, another attack on Trump. But essentially, as this case stands, as long as Trump has an alternative explanation for cutting off the funds that doesn't rely on that OMB order, as far as we can tell, he can rely on any other statute, any other regulation, any other terms. And if you'll notice, again, if you read between the lines on this with Trump, he is not saying the 3 words anymore. And you know what those words are. He's been saying them a lot lately. Waste, fraud, and abuse. That first word, you're not hearing him say so much anymore, right? Because waste is a little discretionary and he can make some decisions that maybe are in disagreement with Congress on that. He's not saying that anymore. It's fraud and abuse. That's it. Waste, I don't even need to make a decision on that because fraud and abuse gives me the independent justification to do what he needs to do, and he's doing it. They're not even shackled as much as they wanted them to be. So the states are going to be furious about this. I still think that there will be a stay at some point, and I think that as a bundle of cases, these will necessarily work their way up to SCOTUS, and Trump is still creating a trap for these judges. They're so overeager that they are violating the basic precepts of the separation of powers in order to exact their lefty revenge on him. And it stands out like a red flag, and every lawyer can see it, and the Supreme Court is not going to miss it. So that's what's happening on that one. Now, let's take a look at a follow-up. Not a follow-up. This is a new lawsuit as well, but here is what's happening with this one, because another lawsuit filed against Trump. This one comes from the Global Health Council, and they want their money and their power back in response to Trump cutting it off, identifying abuse and fraud and saying, until we root this out, there's going to be a pause. Now, what's so interesting about this one is we've seen multiple different lawsuits filed against the president And some of them seem like they have some impact. Some of them seem like they have some teeth. They might actually be slowing things down or stalling out the momentum in the administration. But as we've talked about here, if Trump has an independent source or multiple independent sources to do what he's doing, this is like a cat and mouse game, because these lawsuits are coming in and saying, well, you can't do A, B, and C, but the power of the executive is so broad and powerful that Trump says, I don't care, we'll just do D, E, and F. And we'll use that source to terminate this and that source to terminate that. And that's happening here in real time. And let me show you how it's showing up in the filings, because this came out from these doctors, so-called, versus Trump, and they filed this motion, right? They're freaked out. Memo of law in support of the TRO. We'll read through some of that. But there was another notice that they filed in the aftermath of this. This just happened very quickly today, and there was a hearing that Margot Cleveland is going to run us through in a second to see what the judge said about all this. But here is what Global Health Council is saying is still happening. Okay, Trump's hands are not tied, not even a little bit. Here's what is happening. Since the filing of the motion to stop Trump by these global health people, yesterday morning, the lawyers for the global health people have received information that Trump is accelerating their termination of contracts. What? And suspensions of grants of USAID and State Department partners. There's nothing on hold. Full steam ahead, baby. There are no brakes on this train. Saying this is exacerbating the irreparable harms that plaintiffs are currently suffering, and maybe doing so specifically in response to this lawsuit and the pending motion, right? So as soon as a lawsuit files, they're like, oh, Global Health Council filed a lawsuit. Perfect. Everyone who's associated with them is now fired. Great. Message sent, text sent. Perfect. And before the lawsuit hits the docket, they're moving quickly. So they're admitting, right? Like, holy crap. Shortly after filing this lawsuit, multiple plaintiffs and members of our little council received new purported termination notices, including yesterday and this morning. So they're not even playing. All right. You're still getting canned by, even with all these lawsuits filing, right? They're not losing steam. So keep that in mind. Now, plaintiffs therefore request the court immediately enter our order or set a hearing today. Everyone's available. Call us, let us know. Signed by Stephen K. Worth. And these are some DC lawyers with Arnold, Porter, Kay, and Scholar. And it's going to be interesting to see how all these lawyers are connected too. And, where maybe some funding and money and resources are going and how they're getting involved in these cases. Going to be looking forward to seeing if we start to see patterns of names develop. But anyways, okay, so they submitted that, and here's their claim. They said, all right, Judge, look, Trump needs to be restrained. Here's why. They said this lawsuit is trying to undo and enjoin the unlawful and unconstitutional exercise of power that has created chaos. Perfect. In the U.S. aid and other agencies, they say, in an unprecedented series of action, Trump has sought to dismantle an independent agency, which you can't really create that. Okay, guys, there's 3 branches of government. So what agency is in control of this agency? It's the executive branch. So it's not independent. Unless you have a constitutional amendment that modifies the structure of the country, it's not an independent agency. Billions of dollars has been grifted in there. One cannot overstate the impact of this course of conduct. Lots of people shutting down. Children are going hungry, starving to death. People are dropping out of airplanes and dying from disease immediately. Blah, blah, blah. On the day he took office, Trump issued an executive order, paused everything, and the reality on the ground is dire. The State Department have halted the flow of funding even to existing partners. You're done. Even for work performed before Trump took office, plunging those organizations into turmoil. Sorry. At the same time, they've apparently undertaken to permanently shutter USAID and discontinue their operations altogether. They are even taking the signs down off the buildings. And that was a beautiful sight to see. A very lovely day. Trump has been candid about their motivations. As agency memoranda and guidance makes clear, the president disagrees with Congress's choice to establish them and is now implementing an executive order to carry out his agenda. They say we're all going to die, like other abrupt funding freezes, numerous statutes, separation of powers issues, blah, blah, blah. So they give us a statement of facts. They're suing. And here is how the hearing went down. Now, I want to share this courtesy of Margot Cleveland, who we just reposted on our X account. Highly encourage you to follow this one, follow her, because she was there. Okay. She says, boom, I'm live tweeting here. They filed, there was the TRO, and it went down today. The judge says, all rise. Oh, gosh, here comes the judge, little DC judge again. Says, all right, everybody, we're here today. I understand that there has been a temporary restraining order filed in Docket 402. Is that right? All right, and somebody else, 400 AIDS people, filed another motion, so somebody else sued. So, all right, these cases are consolidated here today. I understand both of you are saying there's harm, you're not getting your money, everyone's dying of AIDS now, we know. So, we're going to keep oral arguments simple today, says the judge. I want each side to just argue the factors of the TRO. So, there's law, these are the elements of the law, just argue those. And I want to caution everybody, we've had numerous filings here and affidavits that were submitted, but many of these were submitted under seal. So please make sure you're not using any publicly identifying information, please. All right, parties, announce your appearances, please. Global Health is there. Hey, hi, can I have Global Health person here, lawyer? DC? All right, you guys go first. Now, I'm asking for an application of standard to the record here. Says him, I guess. So the DOJ says, all right, listen, Your Honor, DOJ is now here, says, Your Honor, there are two other cases that are related before we go on. American Foreign Services sued, and that's in front of Judge Nichols next door, and another one. So can we consolidate those? The judge says, no, we're not going to get into that one. We're going to keep this standard here. So then the attorney for the lefties, Your Honor, if we don't get our money, there's going to be irreparable harm. One of the standards, right? We're going to lose everything. Businesses are going to die. Kids are going to die. Some of our clients lost all or some of their capital as well. There's food rotting all over the place. Medical supplies are expiring. All because of Trump's arbitrary and capricious ways. He's just making this stuff up willy-nilly. It stops pay for work that's already done. And it stops people for doing more work. You know, that can't be done, Your Honor. 90 small businesses, by the way, forlorn 99% of U.S. employees. 94% of them are international. People have lost their health insurance. There's perishable food and medicines. Your Honor, this is going to harm trust and goodwill across America and Ukraine as well. There's people in conflict zones. They're all going to die. The judge says, okay, well, that sounds terrible, I guess. But what action is this going to enjoin? Like, what is your complaint even going to do? Like, what law is it talking about? Your Honor, it's Trump's executive order, 14169. And all of the actions in the proposed TRO should be implemented. Any conduct to implement the executive order should be stopped. So all of the freezes, all of the funding, all of the appropriated funds should be released. Stop. You have to freeze the stop work orders. Okay. So like Trump said stop, you have to freeze the order saying stop. Anything, he says, all fruit of the poisonous tree that's emanating from Trump's executive order. You also can't let him cut aid. You can't let him fire employees. If you did that, that would prevent the harm. Judge said, all right. Well, how many of the plaintiffs here, like today, have already had their funding terminated? All of them, Judge. All of them who received money from USAID and the State Department, it's all frozen. They have no money. All associations have had funding from the State Department frozen. Now, maybe there's some exceptions, like they're talking about waivers and stuff. The judge says, well, how was it stopped mechanically? Like, how did the money stop? He says, well, the payment portal, Your Honor, was used for government contracts. It's completely frozen. Can't even log in to request your millions. Is there typically a stop work order for terminations? Like, does this happen a lot? Well, it depends on the context, Judge. In both stop work and terminations, they cite the executive order. But some people have pending invoices, and that money's not being paid. Well, you say that the USAID is accelerating termination. Is that what you say? Yes, Your Honor. It has a list of contracts that are being terminated en masse by select all, canceled. Next page. Select all, canceled. Next page. It has a list of contracts and they're being terminated hand over fist. And by the way, Your Honor, as to the element as to whether we're going to win on this in TRO, about the likelihood of success, we're going to win. There's a sliding scale, by the way, that says if there's great irreparable harm, then we don't need success on the merits. And we have 4 causes of action here. We're bringing claims under the APA saying that Trump was arbitrary and capricious and therefore unlawful. We're saying that this is a separation of powers problem. And we're saying that this is ultra virus, like this is outside the power of the law. So first, Your Honor, I want to focus on arbitrary and capricious. Trump has failed to consider important aspects of the problem that they claim to address. All they're considering is the president's priorities, but they're not considering the effects of the funding on the entities. Yes, they have. Of course they have. This is them substituting their judgment for Trump. Trump is clearly, they can't read his mind and say that he didn't do those things. Yes, he did. And his judgment was, this was the better decision. They say there's no consideration to doing a review versus a review and a freeze. And implementation has been chaotic and it undermines review because if it's frozen, they can't continue later because they may go out of business, right? And that's the other thing too. It's like cut off that money for as long as possible. They'll have to go get real jobs. No rules or process or standards of waiver, even with waivers of money, isn't released. The judge says, well, have some of them been granted a waiver? Yes, actually, Judge, some clients have some funding for a categorical waiver. Oh, so they are getting paid. Not sure if some or all have applied for waivers. Some funding is not restarted, but they don't understand why. Judge says, well, is there final agency action identified? Like, are you seeing something? Like, was there a Secretary of State memo that follows that we can latch onto to say that's bad? How does relief sought connect to the claim that you're seeking? Like, what do you want? Well, the president's executive order isn't a final action, but the APA claims are challenging non-presidential conduct, right? Because the APA doesn't apply to the president. Then only enjoining non-presidential action. So the EO claim is based on non-APA claims, right? Because the APA, again, doesn't apply to the executive, but the separation of powers and the ultra-virus claims do, which are weak claims. They're the ones who are violating the separation of powers by imposing on the executive. The lawyer says, Your Honor, I suggest that a TRO, a restraining order that stops Trump from implementing the memo and the USAID notices would work. Other internal agency directives, since that directive, and ask the court to give broad relief to cover those things. Yeah, so internal agency decisions, they're saying the court should take control over. The court is now asking another case if they have any new arguments. So the 400 AIDS victims, whatever. Anything from you guys? Well, we have the same as the other case. Your Honor, there's going to be irreparable harm for us too. Our budget was cut by 40%. Wind down operations. We had to fire a large portion of our staff and more firings are coming soon. There's a pause on funding. It's 90 days and we are in a third into it. So it's not even clear if our projects are able to survive. Harm goes to the likelihood of success. You're not entitled to endless money. This was a blanket action without case-specific determination. Our clients can't survive for 90 days. Yeah, that's right. Defendants are achieving what they want to stymie foreign assistance. This is not a permissible action. Yes, it is. The executive branch effectuates legislative directive. They're not an order taker. They execute the law to take care of the country. Admits the directive, says Congress said foreign assistance programs do merit funding and should be prioritized. The judge asks a question. Well, it seems like you guys keep coming up here, like you're very concerned that it's not a case-by-case basis. Like you're mad that they just canceled everything, but it would have been okay if they would have talked to you about it first. Is that what you're saying? So what can a president do? So if they talk to you individually, can they fire you? You said they have flexibility, so what can they do? Like, what is permissible? Lawyer says, well, if a contract is in place, the executive branch can accept the proposal and determine how to allocate. But barring a statement from Congress, they can decide, Project A within a discretion. But he claims the executive cannot refuse to fund programs that match what the legislature says to fund. He claims it's a desire to shut down the funding. And there's also the Impoundment Act that they passed after Nixon that says that the president can go ask Congress to cut back on the money. And he's not following any of that. And the judge says, okay, well, if there's not a contract, though, let's say there's not a contract. Can they look at the project then? What can the executive do if there is a contract? Are you saying if there's a contract, they can't do anything? Well, if the terms of the contract create a mechanism of rescission or pull funding, then they can act under that contract, but they can't terminate for arbitrary and capricious reasons under the law. Another lawyer says, and Your Honor, the executive branch does have some discretion, but discretion over whether money is spent. Yeah, and she says, look, says this concession destroys their case. Trump hasn't said that they aren't funding as required by Congress, just that these funds don't fit the policy. Exactly right from Margot. Yeah, he's going to spend the money. All right. Don't worry about that, Congress. We're going to spend the money, but it's not going to be spent on your liberal infrastructure to the tune of billions a year. So that's gone. Yeah, he'll spend it and it will go to American interests, but it's not going to go to fraud. And your legislation in Congress doesn't say to spend money for fraud. So that's executing the law. And yeah, they realize how insane they sound, right? What a question from the judge. He can't do anything. So all somebody has to do is get a contract with the federal government and then they're embedded forever. Come on. Margot says, this lawyer says, Your Honor, but you can't terminate people for arbitrary and capricious reasons. And says because it is en masse, they fired everybody, it is arbitrary and capricious. Argues that in effect, it means that they aren't doing what Congress says. And says that concession establishes no imminent harm because it's not certain that Trump won't spend. Right, yeah, he will. And not actively, there's no active mechanism for requesting waivers because they've already been placed on leave. And waivers aren't a viable process anyways. The judge says, okay, thank you. Government, Trump's DOJ. Trump's people say. Eric Hamilton for the DOJ, Your Honor. Good afternoon. There is overlap in docket number 20. And I want to submit a declaration of Pete Morocco, Deputy Administrator for USAID, to discuss what's going on here. Now, they keep coming up here, Your Honor, and they're trying to invoke irreparable harm. And they're trying to use it as a one-size-fits-all situation to litigate factual issues. But here's the facts. Some people here have waivers. That shows there was a waiver process that was put into place. That means it's not arbitrary and capricious, and we have a system here that we're putting people through. Secretary Rubio did initial waivers and processes for additional waivers on January 28th. And there were waivers for emergency humanitarian aid. We're going case by case. So they were just complaining about this, but we're doing that. We granted waivers for the AIDS kids. Now, there may be some hiccups in implementing this and the process to consider the waivers while in place because everyone wants their money. They're all pounding at the door. But this is fact dependent, Your Honor. Terms of individual contracts they rest on, we're looking at. Some contracts have clauses that permit changes if determined not to be consistent with the national interest. So we are looking at the contracts and we're getting rid of people based on the contracts. So there is no irreparable harm here. They were made aware of it because it was in their contracts. They knew this could come and signed and agreed to it. Judge says, all right, let's get that declaration submitted into the docket. Now, what's your position to this irreparable harm? Okay, government, they keep coming out here and they say that everyone's going to die immediately if they don't get their money. And Your Honor, well, it's difficult to know without knowing the waiver question. It's more appropriate to litigate this case by case, right? If they have a claim with a contract, they can sue based on the contract, but nobody's doing that here. Now they're suing based on USAID relief and they want a blanket policy. If one of these entities is being harmed and when they have a contract with the feds, bring it. Well, if it's not surviving Is it relevant? Asks the judge. Well, yeah, I mean, it might be relevant, but there's no opportunity to even test the facts. Well, what about the food and medicine? The judge is like, we don't want food sitting around on shores in ports, just sitting there expiring. What about that? Says, well, Your Honor, we've waived those. There's emergency humanitarian waivers. So it's just not turned back on to all of their access yet. But some USAID people, you say, have contractual provisions that allow termination. Is that right? Yeah, and claims there turn on the terms of the contract because all of this is happening on the backdrop of a different foreign policy, right? The pause is in place so that we can understand and recalibrate. That's all. But you believe that the president has clear authority to modify these things? Yes, absolutely, Your Honor. National interest is in these contracts, and it refers to foreign policy of the current president. So they know that he can make these changes. They're not being surprised by this. They sign deals. It's in our contracts. But would that be overbroad? Would that be overbroad if the TRO stops you from doing that? Yes, Your Honor. Yeah, and or is that contract overbroad? Like, does he have other powers? Yes, he can also terminate because of his executive power. So the contract allows him to terminate it, and the executive power allows him to terminate it. So he's got multiple independent sources of power. Are contracts being terminated that are limiting the USAID to those that are that have those provisions? Well, there may be other terms that are relevant, which is why litigation over the actual contract should proceed like any other case would. These lawsuits, though, Your Honor, are not the right vehicle for these contract disputes. Like if they're mad about a contract problem, sue us for that. And Your Honor, they have no likelihood of success on this. Okay, you asked us to argue the TRO standards. They're not going to win this. Many of these claims are preempted in federal court because they can only go to court of the federal claims. Asking the court to provide equitable relief to hold employment actions, they're all preempted. And there are other mechanisms for them to litigate this, not trying to injunction or TRO an executive order. The judge says, all right, well, listen, if there is a contractual problem, he says, I know a little how this works. It goes through federal claims, right? Well, what part of harms are supposed to be going through the employment disputes? So saying, well, you're saying that if they got fired wrongly or their contract was wrong, they should just go to like this agency. But what if like 1 million kids are going to die of AIDS? Well, I take them to ask no changes in employment status and being put on administrative leave. Okay, so they're all still working. They're all still getting paid. But under the statutes, those are to be litigated separately. And those preempt those claims here. So in other words, they can't bring those claims here because there are other rules that say they have to do it elsewhere. And by the way, Your Honor, this is from, it looks like the left. Your Honor, some employees on administrative leave are fact specific and thus shouldn't be looking at here. The judge says, well, I want you to respond. Maybe that's still the government. So it's counsel for the government. Says, well, tell me about this. Respond to the APA and tell me what your position is on the separation of powers. Trump's DOJ says, well, as you know, Your Honor, the executive order cannot be challenged under the APA. And implementation is also not subject to the APA. Rubio, in his memo on the 24th, ordered setting various standards to allow agencies to fulfill mandates. And so there's an adequate remedy at the law, so there's no APA claim. He said, okay, so the EO can't be challenged, but the gutting Franklin argument, but the APA allows review of a final agency action. And often it does take place in final agency action. Yeah, but we don't have any agency action here because merely implementing an EO is not subject to the APA, but also not a final agency action. It's a 90-day pause to study and recalibrate. Then we'll make final decisions. And Your Honor, we'll file a list of cases within the hour anyways, and we'll send in a declaration. Okay, but what about separation of powers? They're saying that Congress said he had to do this. Your Honor, we can't litigate under exceeded a statute. We're not aware of any authority that the take care clause provides affirmative relief either. And we're all arguing this against the backdrop of Article 2 policies. This is enormously disruptive, and it's an intrusion into the federal branch, the executive branch, with the federal court deciding what to do. So they're not even bringing a claim against the statute that we're violating. So what is it? And the take care clause doesn't say we have to do what they're claiming we have to do. That's not in the statute. There's no contract that they're suing under. So they're the ones violating the separation of powers, Judge. Judge says, anything else we haven't covered? Liberals say, well, Your Honor, the EO doesn't just apply to the grants from USAID. It also impacts other State Department grants. Grantees aren't employees, and so they can't go through the APA. And there is final agency action. Just because the government policy may change doesn't mean that it's not a final agency action of a withdrawal of funds. Like the money's not there, so that's it. The pause is final, and it's causing ongoing harm. Claims that the government has given a reason for why the evaluation can't go on while funding continues. Well, why isn't the blunt approach, asked the judge, for the president to decide? Like he got elected to decide those things, so why didn't he decide? Because Congress made the decision. They said that spending must occur, so the president can't stop it for 90 days. Yeah, we'll see. And executive action has to be supported by a reasoned analysis because of enormous reliance interest on the status quo. Like it's going to cause a massive disruption. Trump knows that. The people know that. We elected him to do that. Just because you're unhappy with it and it might cause you some harm doesn't give you a legal basis to override the president's actions. Another lawyer says, by the way, Your Honor, when they challenge them in Moss, the terms of the contract, they can't tie it to the terms of the contract. So there's no policy waiver. The Court of Federal Claims can only award money damages. And we're here asking for equitable relief, right? Money damages is what it sounds like, money, but equitable relief is the court orders somebody to do something. And they want all this money to come back for everybody. Like if they're really doing good work and they have lawsuits, like they can just sue and say, we need our money back on, or file a waiver and they'll get granted probably, but they want it all on. And the scope of the APA doesn't reach the executive order because it doesn't apply to the president, but other claims exist. And so we want the TRO to reach everything. Your Honor, it's about spending and appropriations, which is to Congress and not the executive. And so they want the executive to like literally be just an order taker. Case is about whether the money is spent, not how it is spent. Trump will spend it. Hey man, we could use, the new USAID could fund other media, like alternative media. Maybe we'll start a $10,000 a month live stream or something, and government employees can spend the new USAID money over to us for once. Just kidding. I don't want it. I want it to not be spent. But if he has to spend it, okay, he can spend it in American interest, not transgender surgeries. Now, appropriations expire in March, before the end of the appropriation power. Trump says it's their motion and it's their burden. There is a waiver process. They could just go get it. That doesn't mean that they could get other relief from another court. And the balance of the equities is the presidential power, and it tips in his favor. The judge says, thank you, everybody, for your arguments. I will issue a ruling in writing. But says, here's my candid take. It's important that the analysis of party is tailored because of legal arguments and relief. The proposed order that has come in asks for enjoining the EO. And having it more tailored makes sense. He says, for example, there's section 3B. There's a review and not termination or pause. So how is that a problem? 3DE says, it doesn't seem to be connected. There's implementation under 3A, 3C under advisement. I take that. Helpful to have all the parties make a proposed order on the merits. Please file your proposed order by 4:30 tonight. Plaintiffs made arguments. Please submit something else and evidence saying that people are going to be terminated. And the government, you must file a list of the terminations that you've completed since 2/10. Both of those by 7 p.m. tonight. Otherwise, I take this matter under advisement. So we'll see what the judge says. We'll keep our eye on that one. Thank you to Margot Cleveland for reporting on this. Please make sure you're giving her a follow. She's been doing amazing reporting on that. Did I just unfollow her? Okay, no. All right, good. Don't want that to happen. We love Margot. All right, so that's what's happening there. And we're going to keep our eye on this one as these DC judges continue to try to insurrect and stop the operation of the executive power with their grubby little fingers. We'll keep our eye on it. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. Now, we're not done yet. We got to talk about Todd Hampton here. I'm sorry, not Todd Hampton. I was looking at the Todd Blanche thing. Hampton Dellinger. This case is also going up on appeal. Trump's DOJ now fighting to stop Hampton Dellinger from going back into the government. Remember, this was a special counsel who was appointed by Joe Biden in his final year of his presidency, and Hampton Dellinger was the guy who worked with Hunter Biden. Here was the story from Fox News a long time ago, October 5th, 2023. Says Dellinger also previously donated to Joe Biden, and he was nominated after working with Hunty Poo at a prior job. And so he was fired by Trump as soon as Trump came in. Then he sued, and without even talking to the president, Judge Amy Berman Jackson from the District of Columbia Court gave him his access back, says you're back in there. So told the federal government to turn his email back on and all the things, which seems to me like it might be a national security problem and a literal intrusion into the executive branch with a fired person who used to work for the Bidens. So he sued, and now the Trump DOJ is appealing. And here's what they write. Listen, Court of Appeals. The Constitution and Article 2 vests in the president not just some, but all of the executive power of the United States. That's the SELA law case that we're going to hear a lot about. Yet, since Monday evening, a principal office in the executive branch has been filled not by the president's designee, Trump's, but by a person that the president had deliberately removed from office. Now, like the district court, the plaintiff here fails to grasp, and the plaintiff here is Hampton Dellinger, right? The actual special counsel. He fails to grapple with the significance of that judicial incursion on presidential authority, allowing a district court judge like Judge Amy to install a principal officer contrary to the president's wishes, even for a short time, raises serious separation of powers concerns, which explains why the government took this appeal and is doing so immediately. Saying Hampton is incorrect to suggest that the government somehow acquiesced to the district court's order by declining to grant would have equally been extraordinary, voluntarily reinstating him. Saying, well, he wasn't forced back into the government by the courts. You guys let him back in. They're saying that's not true at all. They shoved him back in. A person who has been removed from office does not have a right to retain office pending litigation over his removal. It was wholly appropriate for the government to decline to reinstate him voluntarily, and it's inappropriate for the district court to reinstate him without even analyzing the prerequisites or any form of injunctive relief at all. And we have a little theory on that one, that he needed to get in there. He wasn't expecting to get fired, got fired, had some bad emails or something, had to get reappointed so he could delete them. Who knows if that happened. Says he recognizes that the district court's order, though styled as a stay, is really a restraining order. And those orders are reviewable. And that's why we're appealing this right now. Court of Appeals in DC, you have jurisdiction over this. It is an injunction, okay? It's not a stay or whatever it is she's calling it. They installed a principle. Someone Trump fired, the courts shoved him back into the government. The reason that TROs are typically not appealable is, like stays, they grant only modest, time-limited relief. All they're trying to do is preserve the status quo. It's a time limit order. But that is not what's happening here. As we've noted, the government is unaware of any instance where a federal judge ordered the reinstatement of a principal officer to a single-headed agency after the president removed that person. Never happened before. So the judge just did it because of Trump, saying it would be extraordinary if appellate courts lacked any power to handle this. There is no 14-day judicial exception to the president's authority to wield all the power of the executive. And if you allow one, there will be serious separation of power concerns. At a minimum, the law should be construed to allow this appeal to happen. Now, if this court, in any event, could obviate the jurisdictional question by just treating this as a mandamus and accepting to hear this, because we're likely to win. The special counsel person contends that it is constitutionally tolerable to limit the president from removing a special counsel. That is a principal officer who heads a freestanding agency within the executive branch. But the opposition is notable for two reasons because of what it does not say. First, while this guy downplays the significance of the authorities exercised by the special counsel, very powerful position, he does not dispute that he oversees the exercise of executive power. Now, this concession is unavoidable. Why? Because he can prosecute. He can initiate proceedings. He can file complaints. Now, second, he also does not dispute that all other removal protections for other agency heads like the CFPB, FHFA, Social Security, they've already been invalidated because there's one president and they live under the president. As noted, Collins and Seila Law make clear the government is likely to win on this. Seila Law quite plainly cast doubts on the validity of the special counsel restriction. As our motion explains, it characterized the OSC as a historical anomaly and noted that it's drawn objections from multiple presidents for multiple years. And Seila Law, the Supreme Court case, it confirmed that the president's removal power is the rule and that the only recognized exception applicable to principal officers like the special counsel is limited to expert agencies led by a group of principal officers. His office is not within that exception, and so accordingly, the president's unrestricted removal power must prevail. Likewise, although the Collins opinion did not comment on the removal as it applies to the special counsel, the court's care in not reaching questions of this provides no basis for distinction. Collins said that Seila was all but dispositive, or vice versa. Now, indeed, Collins rejected the primary arguments here as well. While they tried to distinguish Seila and Collins explained the courts are not well suited to determine the importance of these different agencies. And so that's not our job. It's about the structure of the Constitution. Now, much the same is true of the OLC opinion and their opinion on whether you can remove this person from Social Security. OLC even said there are ways you can remove these people. And this has already been addressed by other presidents. Now, at the bottom, Dellinger's submission largely rests on appeals to policy as to why Congress could reasonably have concluded that the special counsels are protected. But similar arguments were already made in the Supreme Court case, and they didn't buy it. So Article 2 cannot be dispensed with because it makes policy sense for you. And there's nothing in their response that weakens the government's position. A stay is manifestly necessary to stop irreparable harm. As noted in the letter that we filed yesterday, the president has already designated Doug Collins to be acting special counsel. But he can't do that now because the judge has taken over that position. It requires that part of that power be exercised by a person that the president has fired. Now, they dispute that this is a judicial intrusion, and they decide that there is no harm there, but there is harm. We are enjoined from the president having his position filled by somebody he wants. The district court's order imposes significant and irreparable harm. And finally, this person is not going to suffer anything. His basic contention is that a century of ink and energy devoted to for-cause removals would be washed and wasted. But the history is on our side. When principal officers have been removed, they can sue for back pay and stuff like that. But we're aware of just one instance in which the district court effectively reinstated members of a multi-member commission That was never resolved on appeal because it became moot. He says he's experienced substantial harm and more. But he doesn't even address the issues in our motion. The irreparable harm requirement also is connected to the likelihood of success requirement, and he is not meeting those here. Saying the president has removed the principal officer, displacing the president's designation is taking over the executive. There is no way to square that argument with Article 2, and so this is illegal. So this court should stay the district court's order pending appeal and enter a stay and not let this guy come back into the government. To the extent the court has any doubt about its jurisdiction, please treat this as a writ of mandamus and accept the case and hear it accordingly. So as we saw, Pam Bondi's not playing around. She was also asked some questions about this, saying she will be fighting these and appealing these cases up to the top at every turn.
Great man and a good friend at DOJ. What they're doing to him is to our country is outrageous. You know, people work their whole lives and pay taxes, yet they find out that they've been giving $2 million to Guatemala for sex changes. It's outrageous, and it's going to stop. We're going to fight back, not only with U.S. aid and all these other agencies, but, you know, this is happening every day. But DOJ, we are prepared to defend all of these cases, and we will carry out President Trump's agenda.
Got it. In time, and you may be
country.
Successful in that, but the president can't go after these judges, so to speak.
Well, these judges are lifetime
Go after these
appointments,
judges.
but what we can do is appeal them. And that's what's actually happening today in a case. We're appealing a case right now. It went up to the First Circuit, and the First Circuit sent it back to the district court to clarify. And if they don't rule in our favor, we will go to the United States Supreme Court and get clarification and get a ruling, because we have outrageous, overzealous, unconstitutional judges trying to control federal spending. And, you know, that's what's been happening to Kristi Noem. The Roosevelt Hotel, of course, is the most prominent example of that, trying to force us to release tax dollars. And one unelected district judge is trying to do that to our entire country, but we will appeal it, and that is our remedy.
We are very familiar with the Roosevelt Hotel, just a few blocks from our studio here in Midtown Manhattan. Yeah. Another topic now, ICE.
All right, so Pam Bondi, we're going to appeal, and we're going to continue to follow those cases as we do. All right, now, let's take a look at what's happening with Todd Blanche, President Trump's attorney. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche has a nice ring to it. President Trump's former personal lawyer, who's now gone to the DOJ, sat in the Senate for his confirmation hearings, taking questions from all these senators, introduced by Ashley Moody. Here's what it sounded like today.
Today I have the honor and privilege of introducing Mr. Todd Blanche, President Trump's nominee to be Deputy Attorney General, and who I'm proud to say is also a constituent of mine of the great free state of Florida. I've had the opportunity to get to know Mr. Blanche, review his work, examine materials provided to the committee. He is eminently qualified to fill the mission-critical position of Deputy Attorney General, and I voice my full support for his nomination. As we all know, it will take intense days and unwavering determination to assure the American public, our bosses, that the Department of Justice is focusing on protecting them, their rights, and respecting the autonomy of our individual states.
That's right. And so we're looking forward to having Todd in there. Here's a little bit of his opening statement from today.
Important to remember, though, that while the Department of Justice can save lives, it can also ruin lives. I will always keep this fact in mind, and politics should never play a role in the Department of Justice. But recently, in too many circumstances, it has. Prosecutors in this country have predicated entire campaigns on targeting rivals. We saw cases like the one brought in Manhattan against Paul Manafort in 2019, a blatantly illegal indictment filed by an elected local prosecutor, which was thankfully swiftly thrown out. And then more recently, I have stood next to and defended President Trump as partisan prosecutors and politicians abused our legal system in completely unprecedented ways to fulfill a political agenda, which was prosecuting and attacking President Trump. But my faith in this country returned in full force on November 5th, when the American people rejected this gross abuse of our justice system. Partisan lawfare in our justice system wastes taxpayer money, makes communities less safe, and ruins lives. This should never happen in America. America deserves better, and it will stop now. We will work to restore the American people's faith in our justice system, focusing the Department of Justice on the criminals who undermine our safety and destroy our lives, on protecting citizens' rights, and on ensuring that our government can do the job that the voters chose for it to do.
Yeah, Todd Blanche in the House bringing on the truth about what happened with the Trump prosecutions. Of course, we covered a lot of those here. Now, the Senate Judiciary Democrats had a bunch of clips of him today. They were trying to dunk on him, but it wasn't landing because they're wrong and he's right. And I would like to just make a respectful request to the Senate Republicans. Would be nice if you guys could hire a video editor so that you could also do this. But support Trump's nominees would be a good idea. Maybe you could get on that. Because the Democrats were doing it all day. Didn't see anything from the other side, though. I might have missed it. Maybe they're doing it. I didn't see it. But here's what they wrote. Todd Blanche, Trump's pick for AG and his former personal attorney, knee-jerk reacts to his first question with a full-fledged stump speech defending Trump. His first answer, not even hiding the lack of independence. That's who their little intern was writing that. And here is what it actually sounded like.
When President Trump was indicted in Florida first, the prosecutors in that case initially asked the court to not allow President Trump, the defendant in that case, to see the documents that he was charged with, okay, to see the evidence against him. The initial submission said they didn't think that the former president of the United States had a right to see the evidence against him. That's something that even terrorists who are charged often get to see, at least to some extent.
So that is Todd Blanche going on a hysterical rant? What? Do the Democrats not want defendants to look at evidence? Is that what they're saying? That doesn't make much sense to me. But here is an exchange of Chuck Grassley, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, asking some questions of Todd. And we'll fast forward through some of his intro and get to the question here from Chuck.
Alleged Justice Department misconduct.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, for sure. Two things come to mind. The first, and a lot of this actually is public. If you look very long and hard, it's just never reported. The first is when President Trump was indicted in Florida first, the prosecutors in that case initially asked the court to not allow President Trump, the defendant in that case,
we heard this,
to see the documents that he was charged with, okay, to see the evidence against him. The initial submission said they didn't think that the former president of the United States had a right to see the evidence against him. That's something that even terrorists who are charged often get to see, at least to some extent. Secondly, 3 months later, when President Trump was indicted in D.C., the prosecutors in that case asked the judge to start a trial December 11th of the same year.
Crazy.
Notwithstanding the fact that Jack Smith knew that he was producing over 11 terabytes of discovery to President Trump and the defendants. He also knew that President Trump was going to be on a trial in New York, a civil trial brought by the AG in New York for much of the fall, and that he already had a trial scheduled in Manhattan to start in the early spring. He also knew that Judge Cannon had already scheduled an evidentiary hearing the same day in Florida that they wanted the trial to start in D.C. Notwithstanding all that, that was their position. And Chairman, the frustration, and if I'm frustrated, I continue to be frustrated, is that the Department of Justice knew that that was happening. Nobody stopped it.
Yep.
Nobody stepped in and said, hey, that's not the way we do things at the Department of Justice. They just let Jack Smith do it. There are other examples. When the Supreme Court decided the immunity decision on July 1st, Jack Smith went right back to the grand jury, removed almost nothing from the indictment and filed another charge. Department of Justice stood by and let that happen. That I think was a gross miscarriage of justice, Chairman. Later on in September, once again, they filed a brief that has never been filed in any case in the United States Criminal Department of Justice history. They just filed something. There was no motion pending. They knew it was a month and a half before the election, and so they filed a 170-something page brief that had no basis in the federal rules of criminal procedure.
At all.
Apparently, they got permission or clearance from the Department of Justice to do that. So those are the two examples that always come to mind when asked about what happened, and to this day, I think that was a travesty of justice.
Ms. Slater, so I can get to a couple.
All right, so that was Todd Blanche, and there was another person there. Here is Mike Lee, senator from Utah, talking to Todd.
Thanks to both of you for your willingness to serve and for being here today. Mr. Blanche, I'd like to start with you. You had a long and distinguished career as a federal prosecutor. While you were at the Department of Justice, you received a Department of Justice Award for Superior Performance as an AUSA for your work in a case called United States versus Lee. That case, as I understand it, involved prosecuting a gang for narcotics trafficking, armed robberies, and even murders. Over the last 4 years, we've seen a crime wave sweeping across the country, including a violent crime wave. How, if you're confirmed as Deputy Attorney General, will you address some of these issues?
Thank you, Senator. I mean, quite simply, to empower United States attorneys around this country to work with not only the federal agencies like the FBI, DEA, ATF, but also with our state and local partners to get into the inner cities, but also into our rural communities and combat violent crime. It can work. We have a lot of money. We have a lot of really great agents and great prosecutors who want to do this work. And so going into a city and cleaning it up, and some of those cases will go to the state. Some of the cases should go federal, but working with our state and local partners and empowering, if confirmed, empowering U.S. attorneys to do their job, I think is the shortest and easiest way to make that happen.
You spent much of your career doing precisely that from a different level, different position, but in that respect, this could feel like stepping into a comfortable set of shoes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good stuff there from Todd Blanche, and we do hope that he gets confirmed. He's got some good support. Chuck Grassley says, Mr. Blanche is a lawyer's lawyer. He's got a long career as a criminal litigator. We appreciate that. A stellar reputation, and the whole country has seen that he'll do the right thing, even when unpopular. Mr. Blanche is exactly the kind of partner that Attorney General Bondi needs to help her restore faith in the DOJ. John Cornyn, going to vote for him, says, I look forward to his confirmation. I'll work with him to help Pam Bondi make America great and safe again. And the DOJ is unloading some memos as well. Last week, they said that they're going to take steps to restore faith in the DOJ. This came over from Ethan Heim, MD. Shared this one from February 5th, a while ago, that we're just getting published. Said, here, we're going to be restoring the integrity and credibility of the DOJ. Says the DOJ must take immediate and overdue steps to restore the integrity, to ensure that the people are ready and willing to faithfully implement the policies of the president. These steps are required because, as Trump pointed out, the prior administration and allies throughout the country engaged in an unprecedented third world weaponization of prosecutorial power to upend the democratic process. And he issued an executive order to stop that from happening. And what has happened in some cases has been the retaliatory targeting of legitimate whistleblowers and issuing new guidance. And we're excited to have all of this come into fruition. Todd Blanche sitting for his confirmation hearing, doing a nice job, and we're excited to see the Senate confirm him when the time comes. All right, my friends. Well, if you're just joining us, we had a lot of stuff that we covered today. We had Pam Bondi come in and announce that she was filing charges. I think they're going to be civil charges against the state of New York, Hochul, Tisch, and the others there. That has not dropped yet, but we did hear Pam Bondi come out and give us the highlights on that one when she spoke just hours ago, and prayers to Tammy. So we heard that. We also then got updates in New York and Rhode Island. And in the Rhode Island case, from our perspective, this judge is backtracking aggressively. Okay. He had 3 orders that he wrote in the past 2 weeks or so. And the first order was bad. Second order was horrendous, but he went back to the bad order because he realizes he overstepped and he got caught with a grocery cart full of unpaid goods. Then we talked about the DC case. This Global Health Council was in court today demanding a TRO. Trump's attorneys were there. We got the entire hearing covered courtesy of Margot Cleveland, who was in the courtroom and did a live review of what was happening there. The special counsel, Dellinger, continues his fight, but Trump has appealed to the District of Columbia, taken that one up to reverse that. And we also learned that Hampton Dellinger was a close friend or a colleague, at least, with Hunter Biden and worked at the same law firm together with him. And then, of course, we wrapped up with some Todd Blanche news. We're happy for Todd. We hope that that goes swimmingly well, and I'm sure that it will. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you, and we'll see what you say about all of this and more. Thank you so much for being amazing people, for being here. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing the channel with a friend or family member so they can come over here and join us when we go live. And thank you for becoming membos as well, because we have great members only streams in the morning. We'd love to have you join us. All right, let's see who's joining us today, man. We got some great donos from this morning. Speaking of the Membo streams, Word says, it kind of seems like Trump is turning Obama's talking points against him. Says, you don't like the policies that Obama just presented? Why are you so racist? Why are you such a hater, etc.? Now Trump is doing the same thing. Oh, you don't like the policy I just launched? Well, I'll comply with that, but I can't understand why you would want such a travesty to continue, right? Way to go, Trump. Yeah, it's tactical compliance. Oh, I have to give out all the money? Okay, I guess here goes millions of dollars to drug dealers. You're welcome, Judge. Enjoy it. Yeah, you want it? You got it, buddy boy. Hey, thank you for that. And Words, sorry we missed that one this morning from Words. What's going on? Voice of the People says, hey, we got that one. Searches for criminal defense lawyers are skyrocketing. Thank you for that one. Hey, and Jerry Swoboda became a new membo. Thank you, Jerry. Welcome aboard. We'll see you tomorrow on the Membos Only stream. Can't wait to see you there. Thanks for signing up. Glocky is here. Says Sotomayor needs to recuse herself from anything that comes before the court relating to this administration. I guess the new norm is for Democrat judges to just rule in cases at Democrat functions, instead of relying on facts. Sotomayor says presidents are not monarchs and they must obey rulings. Whatever from her. Glocky, amongst all the fraud, waste, and abuse being uncovered by DOJ, the Democrats did this today. Oh, they want reparations today. Yeah, we refuse to be silent. That's for sure. Hey, what's up? Ed says, what would happen to the judges if they were abolished and if the Congress abolished the DC circuit? So it would take legislation, and I think that there would be some decision on what to do with the circuit. So would it be, gobbled up by another circuit, like would they send it into the first or something? Or are they all just fired? And they can go get new jobs. I like the second one better. Thank you, Ed. Great question. Hopefully it happens. Gerard Cormacan. What's up, Gerard? Thank you for becoming a new membo or for sending in a dono today. Very nice of you to do that. We appreciate your support. Cardinal O'Flanagan also became a supporter. Amazing. Thank you, Cardinal O'Flanagan. We'll see you tomorrow. And Deluxe Night. This morning we had a really happy birthday and an anniversary and a Tulsi celebration all in the same day. So if I remember, Combat Boot Mom is 71 today, and she's got a 52-year anniversary with Combat Boot Dad. And we're grateful they're here. Thank you, Deluxe Night, for shouting her out a happy birthday. One more happy birthday for Combat Boot Mom. I hope you're having a wonderful and blessed day from Deluxe Night. What a nice birthday. Thank you, Deluxe Night. Knox says, another awesome quote from Jeff C. Says, in just the last 24 hours, Trump has deployed the threat of a historic swamp-draining reconciliation bill, forced deep state classified disclosures, devastating counter leaks, public official grifting investigations, a new executive order requiring massive downsizes, and making resistance a terminable offense. Yeah, there's a lot of winning, and it feels good. Knox says, happy Wednesday, all. Very happy about Tulsi. Go RFK Jr. Yeah, and Mark Wayne Mullen says he's got the votes, and Cash has the votes. We saw today that McConnell, who's a coward, voted against Tulsi. Pathetic. Cardinal says, it's strange that people say officials like Musk must be elected, not appointed, yet they will turn to appointed, not elected judges to do what they want. Yeah, or they like the non-elected bureaucrats who were there before Musk. It's like, why do they like that guy better than Elon? Nobody even knew who that guy was. And he had access to everything. So what are they so upset about? Stop the China fraud hustle says, check out the China hustle and underwriting the enemy. Hey, Harley's dad is here. Rumble is banging 1,000 live listeners. You're my hero, Robert. We got 1,000 folks on Rumble. We love our Rumble friends. Let's see how many we got. Oh, over 2, it looks like. Says, what's up? Says, I can say Robert is my hero confidently, as my brother's name is also Robert, along with my dad, Senior. Good names. Sound like very amazing people. Thank you, Harley's dad. What's up to our Rumble friends? Hey, what's up? Spuds is here. Spud says, please help me celebrate this handsome devil who happens to be my dad next to my mom on his 91st birthday today. Yes, his 91st birthday. He's a bit younger than Abe Lincoln, though. What's up to Spuds' dad? Happy birthday to Spuds' dad and to Spuds' mama. And Spuds, we're sending you prayers, my friend, and we're sending your family prayers. And good love to your lovely mama. She looks amazing. Happy birthday to dad. Thanks for sharing that with us. Glocky's here. Sharing this one. Here was a link. Judge McConnell says, as middle-class white male privileged person, is what he said, he needs to understand criminals who are women, black, and trans. Oh, gosh. Thank you for that, Glocky. Random Car. What's up, Random Car? On set. Thank you for sending the dono in. We appreciate you. Deluxe Knight says, Pam, you are killing it. Don't let off that throttle, baby. Doesn't sound like she's going to. This old guy says, as I said yesterday, McConnell should have put on his work boots before stepping into the pasture. He has now stepped in twice. Very slow learner. Yeah, McConnell voted against Hegseth and Tulsi. And like votes for Democrats all the time. Like confirmed all of Biden's people. More here. What's up? Bringing in 10 more here. Thanks for doing that, more here. Look who's coming in. Keith Ballard, Femme Natal. We got Benjamin Ben, Becky C, Worst Viking Ever is here. Michelle, Christine is joining us. Stephen O, what's up? Cloud99, Tasty Trade Tom. We got Eddie Van Zant and others saying thank you to more here, bringing in even more here. Thanks for doing that. Hey, Tanya says, Rob, the boys say hi. Happy Wednesday. Rob can do the menu today. Oh, man, look at this little baby in the house. Tanya Karras has a little baby in the house. Thank you, Tanya, for sharing that. The littlest of the babies in the house. Happy birthday to the boys over there. Or not happy birthday. Happy Wednesday to the boys. You said happy Wednesday, not happy birthday. Happy Wednesday. The menu today is going to be a taco casserole with a side of sausage, baked potatoes, and curly fries. It's a lot of potatoes and carbs in there, but enjoy it. Deluxe Knight, what's up? Happy birthday, says Deluxe Knight. Celebrating a birthday with Spuds and father and mama Spuds in the house. Shane, reminding everybody to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and invite everyone you've ever met in your life to come join us when we go live tomorrow. Hey, Jean Crane. What's up, Jean? Thank you for this. Says, Pam Bondi is a very brave woman. She is standing up against the gangs and cartels. She reminds me of Esther from the Bible. I pray that God looks over her and protects her. Yeah, she came out swinging. I almost about jumped out of my chair. We're bringing charges against the state of New York. What? That sounds amazing. Thank you, Jean. Yeah, she's going to have a lot of people coming after her very soon. That's already happening. ELZ says a constitutional crisis equals a paperwork for lawyers. Yeah, I'm getting pretty tired of that phrase from the left. Pretty tired of it. And I think it's about time to call them out on this, right? Like if they're going to be whining and waxing poetic all day about democracy is on the verge, end of America, blah, blah, blah. Elizabeth Warren, Chris Murphy, They should just call for impeachment already. Like, just say it. Stop being so pathetic. Just say you want him removed and go for it. Like, if you think this is so bad, if it's not so bad and you don't want to do that, then just shut up about it already. Because we're tired of hearing you cry like the sky is falling constantly. Start calling for impeachment if the country's over. And let's just get it over with. Because we know that that's where you're going to go anyways. So stop beating around the bush. Stop crying about constitutional crisis. Do something about it. And then that will force the Republicans to act as well. Hey, Ed says, why doesn't balance of equities favor the government? Because it's Trump's government right now. If it wasn't Trump's government, it would. If courts rule for states, they get the money later. No harm done. If courts say the government didn't have to spend the funds, they're forced to spend, the government can't get the funds back. Yeah. So it's exactly right, Ed. And they're just saying the opposite, right? The harms are, well, our businesses are going to go away. And since they're all, basically DC businesses that they're all friends with, they give them the benefit of the doubt. And I think it's an inversion of the burden. The burden is on the government to prove that there is no fraud or something. What? And these other Democratic organizations and unions get the benefit of the doubt? When did that happen? General Kale says, for the unemployed federal workers, learn to pick fruit. Learn to pick fruit for the unemployed federal workers. Yeah. Well, remember they said learn to code and all those things. Times change and they have been deemed non-essential. And we're only pausing them for 90 days to slow the spread of fraud and corruption. After that, we'll reconsider. It's only 90 days. They can trust us. Then they'll be back. Sharpie Guy says, you absolutely cracked me up, Rob. I love how when you go through the motions, when the judge enters the chamber and you stand up from your chair, all rise. Oh, gosh. Another great, well, we do. We are respectful here. Another great coverage of the craziness and of lousy judicial operations. Do you think there is anything to the whistleblower from Butler jumping out telling Josh Shapiro about the assassination attempt? I just want your input, brother. So I have not seen anything more on that, right? Anybody can file a complaint and send a letter in and make claims. What I did read was a response from some law enforcement person that said they looked into it. They have multiple open investigations. His response sounded pretty credible. Like the response from the government, like I read it, I looked into it, I sent it to a couple other people. They say there's no real evidence of this. And there's a lot of this stuff that pops up from time to time. Like this, I would be skeptical about it, but if it develops, then we'll cover it. But I don't think that it will. And I think the same thing happened with that affidavit about Kamala and that ABC debate. Like this stuff happens from time to time. Somebody posts out something, they get a bunch of clicks and a bunch of headlines. Everybody makes videos about it. And a lot of people kind of play dumb. Like, well, I don't know. Maybe it could be true. I don't know. I saw it. It wasn't worth covering here. So in my opinion, if it develops and it matures and matriculates, then we'll talk about it. But from what I've seen, I don't think so. Tina J. Dallas says, I claim much ado about BS. No one cared about the small American businesses when the large corporations, many part of holding companies like chain restaurants and hotels, when they sucked up all the PPP money and it took several months to replenish it, and funds, small 1 to 10 employee businesses had access to money. Hell, many went out of business during COVID. We did not get a break from office rents, and the manner in which the PPP was underwritten and amounts approved varied wildly. And yeah, and our government said it was only going to be 14 days to slow the spread. It happened for 2 years, and then they mandated you put stuff in your body. Londo, happy birthday, Papa. What's up, Londo? Thank you for wishing Spuds' Papa a happy 91st. Indeed. Sheila Poo, a million hugs to you, says the executive branch has the right to decide which funding is appropriate and is not only allowed, but is expected to prevent fraud. Right? You have to take care of the money. If someone says, go deposit $1,000 in the bank, you deposit it all in the bank, right? You don't just get grifted on the way there. You have to execute and take care of the funds. And unless Congress is delineating, you have to spend this money for transgender surgery or something like that, which is not in there, right? It's for the furtherance of American interests. Trump is in alignment and compliance with the law. Roger Needham says, I'd like to petition that we call them excerpts instead of tweets. Seems like an obvious transition to me. Yeah, it is pretty clever, Ollie. Somebody should tell that to Elon. You should tell Elon, Roger. Maybe it'll happen. Sometimes I call them tweets, and I'm afraid Elon's going to ban us, you know. Just kidding. Chris Solitary One, what's up? Hello, hey, my friends, Rob and Watcher family. I will be making the switch to Rumble for my viewing. I encourage everyone to join me. I'll continue membership on Locals to support our boy Rob. Thank you, Chris. We appreciate that. Your boy needs it. And man, yeah, Rumble's making some big moves. Did you see Rumble was there today at the White House press briefing room? And we also have Tim Pool, I guess. Is he going over to Rumble? Is that an exclusive thing? Like, is he going to keep streaming on YouTube? Or is it Rumble exclusive? I don't know. That's exciting, though. Congrats to Tim and the crew over there. Very fun. What's up, JT's Republic? 9 months as a membo. That means we got a new baby in the house. Says the show is like music to a baby's ear. Thank you, JT's Republic. I'm very happy for us. Welcome aboard, little fella. We're glad you're here. JT, thanks for being here for 9 full months and hanging with us full term. What's going on? Voice of the People. 10 new membos coming in, courtesy of Voice. Thank you, Voice, who handles off-label podcasts right next door. Richard Brookins. Welcome. Heather Fulweiler. We got Luna Walker, Tessa Cunningham, Mrs. Smith, Celia Frostborn, Big Papa Sims. What's up, Big Papa? We got Krista Copley, Wednesday Snow, and Dolores Hamilton. Gifted membos, courtesy of Voice of the People. The voice of the people should be heard. What's going on? He's going exclusive over there? Man, that's crazy. Good for him. Hey, Cremadella. What's up? Cremadella Phone became a new supporter. Thank you, Cremadella. We'll see you on the Membo stream tomorrow morning. And what's up, Rick D? Rick D shared this one, which is a nice post. Not sure what that one is, Rick D, but thank you for sharing that, my friends. Please read that one on your own time. Hey, Crash shared this one. Here's a tip for my comment. Thank you, Crash, for the nice comment, leaving this one here. Says, associated with a tip, says, tactical compliance. Rob, we have often most likened our experience as members of the Watcher family at the table. Breakfast is like the morning stream. Dinner is like the show. The after party is like dessert. Our time is always enjoyable, nourishing, and satisfying. Always. Thank you, Crash. I agree. I love hanging with you. We eat vicariously through you and other family members in the chat. But as your mom surely admonished you, Rob, chew your food, slow down, and don't gulp it down. Today, for sure, chew slowly so that we can all enjoy and savor the flavors bursting on our palates. These are exciting days of winning. No italics needed. Thank you, DJT. From Crash in the house. So we should read these orders a little bit more slowly and sensually and enunciate every single syllable. This old guy says, it's difficult for me to believe that these circuit judges graduated from virtually any law school and don't know better. Therefore, their actions are so obviously politically motivated as to be laughable. From this old guy. Yeah, well, it's been a long time since they've been in law school, and their brains have now turned to mush because of their TDS. It's a bad side effect of that. Glocky says, not going to lie, I'm pretty excited they're going to be bringing back the letters of Mark. I'm going to be a whiskey-drinking, beard-having, cutlass-waving, swashbuckling privateer, sailing the Gulf of America, raiding the cartels, and seizing prize money. Man, that would be pretty epic, Glocky. We'd love to hear from your adventures. The adventures of Glocky, sailing the high seas of the Gulf of America. Perfect. Hey, Tim Burchett says, I'll be introducing the Cartel Mark and Reprisal Authorization Act, which would authorize Trump to allow privately armed individuals to seize cartel stuff. Which would be great. That'd be fun. Hey, breaking news. Doge is now live. Doge.gov/regulations. Just launched that. Thank you, Glocky. That looks fun. Hey, Lupe Murillo says, I'm sorry I just came. Did you speak of ad in DC calling for the elimination of Musk? And damn, Robert Garcia called for weapons to be brought out? No, but I know what you're talking about. I think Senator Tom Tillis posted in front of a bus stop sign that said, take out Elon or something, eliminate Elon, something like that. Like it was an ad with like, I think a target over it, no? Yeah, they're getting nuts. They're nuts. Thank you, Lupe. Yeah, and I think we saw, who was that? Oh, Jasmine Crockett. She came out and said, you better watch it, little boy Elon, or there's going to be problems for you, or whatever she said, however she says it. But Will Crump says, back up his email account before he can access it, install a keylogger software, restrict his ability to uninstall or make system changes, and that way we can see all of the evidence that he's deleting. All of the evidence he's deleting. Thank you, Sheila Pooh, for bringing in 10 more membos. Greg B's coming in. Marge 9. We got the Mangises here. Nicholas H. We got F. Cuckoo in the house. Nunya Business is here. We got Samuel Martin, Mitch McCarran, Terry 54, and Lady Astrid bringing in 10 new membos courtesy of Sheila the Pooh. A million hugs to you. What's going on? Glocky says, the Doge site is interactive, FYI. So check that one out. Go to the Doge site. That'll be fun. Jack Mack, what's up? Jumping in late. Good to see you, Jack. But I just want to express how utterly happy and excited I am about Tulsi and her confirmation today. Such a great MAGA day. It was a good one because she was, I think, the squirreliest of the rest of them. There was one point on Polymarket not long ago, last week, when she was at, I think, like 48%. We were like, yes, what's going on? Jack Mack says, and Jack Smith is trash and still not a real boy. Not even at all. And he's never going to be a real boy. He is going to try to pretend to be a real prosecutor who actually prosecuted Trump legitimately. Never happened. And he's a failure too. So, man, it stinks to be Jack Smith now. Glocky, what's up? Says the executive branch alone is bloated. Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, and that's where they're cleaning house right now. At the executive. Hey, Voice of the People, almost 2 years. Wow, it's already almost been 2 years now. Man, time is flying. It's crazy. I can't believe like February is almost over, almost halfway done. What the heck is going on? Voice of the People, thanks for being here. 23 months as a member. We're going to have a full month of the presidency soon, huh? Amazing. How much have we done in like 3 weeks? It's crazy. Drumsin, what's up? Welcome. Thanks for becoming a supporter. Great to have you. We'll see you tomorrow in the members only stream. Marge is here. Very nice to see you, Marge. Thank you for the nice dono and for that little kitten boop right there. Boop. CF Rob says, are we going to have any more closed court hearings from this point out where we need someone to tweet out what's happening? Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're going to have lots of them. Yeah. The federal courts, no video, no audio in the federal courts. So that's why we're grateful for Margot and our inside men and women. Knox is here. Happy birthday and happy anniversary to Combat Boot Mom and the fam. Indeed. Yeah, those are big ones. Very big ones. Rick D says, Elon, I found the 150-year-old getting Social Security. Mitch McConnell's like, get it? Hey, Knox, happy birthday to Spuds' dad. We got lots of birthdays in the house. Happy birthday to Spuds' dad. Black Dragon, what's up? Democrats hate the U.S. Constitution. That is why they keep crying about democracy and keep trying to go against the will of the people. They actually do hate the Constitution. Like Sonia Sotomayor and these lefty judges, they have this concept of a living, active, breathing Constitution that's like changes dynamically based on their moods. Thank you, Black Dragon, for noticing it. Art Pollard says, hello from Japan. What's up to our friends in Japan and Art? Thanks for shouting out over there. Says it's time for a McConnell investigation. Yeah, there's people talking about that. And it might be time for him to, get out of government. Pinochet's helicopter tours, the best helicopter rides you've ever been on. The best part of all of this is that the federal DOJ employees are now forced to argue in federal court to fire their three-letter agency friends. It's like forcing a parent to pick between the kids. LOL, I love it. Yeah, that is happening. And they're coming out with like PTSD, like the ones that survive. It's like at the end of Squid Games. The one government employee walks out at the end. He's like, I can't believe I'm here. I'm just traumatized now. It's like Squid Games. Rob, what's up? Thanks for all you do, Rob, and the Watching the Watcher family. Just not the person that thumbed down on the Rumble stream. Who did that? Does anybody know who did that? Let me know. We will find you, and we will end you. It's like Pam Bondi, from watching the stream. It's, that's all. Not anything violent, all right? YouTube censors, relax. It's a joke. All right, so that's funny. Who did that, though? I do want to know. What did you dislike about the show? What's your feedback? Tim interviewed on Louder with Crowder today. He is joining Rumble Premium. I saw it. I saw the announcement. I think it's awesome. I was just wondering what the structure was. Is he off of YouTube and going over there, or is he still going to be on YouTube, or what's going on? Either way, it's a great development. I'm happy to hear about it. Useless Idiot, what's up? We think you're very useful and smart. Thanks for being a membo. You made a very good decision, and you're useful to our community for becoming a supporter. So thanks for that. Londo, a 12-year-old girl, relative of J.D. Vance, has been barred from a heart transplant because she has not had the jabs. Hospitals in Cincinnati, we need to bring the heat on this one. Adeline Deal is her name. Hey, Voices here. Says, okay, Tim is now streaming on both YouTube and Rumble. His members only is under Rumble Premium. Oh. Okay, I got it. His site members get Rumble Premium access automatically, as well as those that have Rumble Premium already. Oh, cool. Okay, cool. Very cool. That's interesting. So he no longer has his website, like the Timcast website. Interesting. It's always interesting to see, what's happening in this space. We want more free speech, more anti-fragility. It's good. Deluxe Knight says, Tim called YouTube the boomers' Facebook of streaming in that interview. Announced he's putting up physical billboards in major cities as well. No, Tim's a force, man. I'm happy to hear that he's developing his business in a way that serves what he's doing. I'm happy to hear about it. Useless Idiot says, they all have Biden brain. Yeah. Biden brain turns you to mush brain, like applesauce brain. It all just kind of deteriorates. What can you do? JDE Corey says, just a good morning stream to go over the Youngstown Steel case. Trump has lots of power over foreign policy, so it's good info for members from Youngstown Steel case. Maybe we'll talk about that, JDE Corey, on the Membo stream. Sounds like a good suggestion. Useless Idiot says, any members of Congress protesting on the street and advocating violence in any way should be removed from Congress, no questions asked. That'd be a lot of them, because there was like 15 Democrats over these last few days screaming. Hey, Victoria Greenfield says, I've been here longer than 8 months, but it's been amazing. Thank you. So we definitely have a baby, Victoria. We'll count it. And you've been here 8 months anyway, so officially. I know it's been longer than that. Thank you, Victoria, for hanging with us and for supporting us. Coming up on 9 months, full term in the House. And so, my friends, really generous of you. Thank you for sending those in. Thanks for the fun comments and the great questions and the amazing input. Let's say hello to our friends on X before we go over to locals for our members only after party. And we'll see who's joining us over there on X. Here's what we got here from James Pepper. Yeah, this was debate prep. Remember this? Debate prep for Biden. Yeah. Joe, that didn't help. Breaking news, says Fred. The Democrat Party has appointed J.D. Wentworth as their new leader to be 2028 presidential nominee. J.D. Wentworth. What is that commercial? 877 cash now? Is that the one? Hey, Sergeant GPS says, Sergeant GPS flagging this. Buyouts can continue. Breaking, Trump's buyout plan for federal workers was reinstated by a judge. Yeah. We're going to start to see the reversal of this. The pendulum always swings both ways. So we're going to see it come back. Shakes. All rise. It's been a while since I've seen you do that. You should just do that daily because it's so awesome. Maybe at the beginning of the stream every day, the YouTube stream, just to be clear. Good suggestion. But then what would we do when the judges come out? John Cobb says, shouldn't it be up to Congress to sue for their spending bills? Or anybody else basically can sue if you're just a useless Democrat. Hey, Shakes is here. Shakes says, I'm ready to be an FBI civil servant of Doge. Show up, Doge. Can I see your identity, your identification? It's Doge. Oh, we love you. Come on in. Hey, what's up? Jesse Oppenheimer is here. And my friends, great to see everybody over on X. Of course, if you want to follow us on X, this is our profile. You can go check us out over there. As well at Rob Govea, ESQ. We post a bunch of our videos there, and we'd like to see you there as well. But, my friends, that is going to be it for us on the day. I saw we had one final comment come in from Boopsy. Says on local, says, I wonder what it's like for all those press people to sit in the White House press conference room and what they get out of it. And if they don't get to ask a question, do you know? Well, I think it's just kind of the honor and the prestige of being there. Like if we got an invitation to go there and ask a question, I would, pay out of pocket and just like love the opportunity. So like, I don't think that they're getting paid anything. I think it's just the honor of being in the room to be able to ask the executive branch a question and to participate in that process. Like, I think it's a real honor. Now, the rest of the media are there. Like, I think, that's why 10,000 people submitted a form to go do that. I'm sure it's exciting. I'm sure it's a little nerve-wracking, to get to talk to the press secretary. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But I think that's all. And then the media, of course, are paid to be there. And, they're all employed by, I guess, USAID or whatever to just, sit there and be annoying. But that's not what, if they wanted to pay us $10,000 a month for multiple Watcher Pro programs, they could do that. But I don't think that's happening for anyone else. All right. So, my friends, we're going to leave it there on the day. Thank you so much for being amazing and for joining us. Our plan is to come back here tomorrow to get into it again. Before we wrap it up on the day, we want to shout out our amazing mods and meme smiths. K-Bean in the house, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, Playing Hooky, Dog Digger, and Janek modding the fort down for us over on the Rumbles and elsewhere. And we're grateful for our amazing mods. We have the best mods in the whole world and the planet. But now, my friends, we're going to leave it there on the day. The plan is we're coming back here tomorrow to get into it again. Until then, my friends, I want to thank you once again for being here. In order to do it appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.